Hi, it's Pat McDonald, your host for Vote for Vermont, where our tagline is Listening Beyond the Soundbites. Joining me in studio today is Lisa Shermahorn, who is a licensed hypnotist and quantum healer, and you're going to have to explain that to us. Also, she has appeared in an award-winning movie, and we're going to talk about what's happening here in Waitsfield with that movie. Big event. Very exciting. You have been, seriously, you've got it all going. It's great, Lisa. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. You know, it's really amazing. I was just talking to someone recently, and I was looking at all the things that I've done. And I said, 25 years ago, when I started this journey, if someone had told me that I would have done all of these things, I would have thought that they were insane.
Exactly. Exhausting, isn't it?
It is exhausting.
Good grief. Well, Lisa is an international award-winning quantum healer. Let's just take a breath there. What is quantum healing?
You know, it's interesting because I'm actually writing a second book now about We Are Quantum, because we are quantum individuals. So our thoughts create our own reality. When we remove any of these old belief systems, and we are in a place where we project what we believe. So the quantum is our thoughts and how we create our own lives. Oh. Have you ever gone through a day and you're late in the morning, and then all day you're going, I'm late, and then you're late all day, right? Right. So we create our own reality.
Yeah,
We've
true.
Decided that we're going to be late all day.
Oh, interesting. I love it. And also, we're going to do something a little different with this show. My shows are usually an hour. In the first half hour, we are going to talk about the book that Lisa wrote, and it's called Every Belief is a Lie. Right. And she just pointed out to me, because I was not too clever to figure this out, the word lie is in belief.
Yes.
I like that.
Isn't that great?
That was cool. And the movie that she is in, and there was one other woman from Waitsfield as well with you. Could you talk a little bit about her? And how,
Barry Fisher.
Right.
Barry Fisher, who's a well-known photographer. Right. She's amazing. Yeah, she plays my client in the movie. So, so we had a lot of fun. But, getting back to the whole idea of quantum and all of that, as a quantum healer, the work that I do is really about helping people heal themselves. So we're all frequency and vibration. So when I work with someone, I close my eyes and I go into like this trance state. And then I'm helping people raise their frequency so they can heal themselves. But if they have a belief system that's blocking it, then that's the other work that I do, is releasing the block. So that's where I really started with the book, because for me, I had this belief system that I wasn't smart, and it went back to my childhood, because I had undiagnosed learning disabilities.
Oh.
And I remember in kindergarten, everyone was doing their alphabet, they were reading, they were writing, they were, starting to do their numbers, and I was completely lost. And if you don't have that foundation of reading and writing, you can't do anything else.
Right.
So I spent every summer in summer school, and I remember going through my childhood thinking, I'll never amount to anything. I can't do anything. I'm not a great student. And I struggled with that. And a number of other things had happened, but by the time I was 38, I was suicidal.
Oh.
I was quite despondent. I didn't want to be here anymore. I had 2 young children, so I knew I wasn't going to do anything. They kept me here, but that heaviness and that dark, dark place that I was in, I really struggled. And I was going to therapy 2 to 3 times a week, and no one was helping me. And someone suggested a hypnotist. And I was like, a hypno? What? Don't they make you quack like a duck?
Yeah, right.
And what I discovered is hypnotists, there's stage hypnotists, they're entertainers, and then there's therapeutic hypnosis. So I went to a hypnotist, and she changed my life, because our higher self, the unconscious mind, has the answers to everything that we need. So when you access that part, then you already come up with your own answers. So this process helped me release all of those beliefs that I wasn't smart, that I would never amount to anything. And as I did that, I had the desire to study, and I found
Interesting.
something that I was good at. So I went on and on about studying hypnosis, neuro-linguistic programming. It's also known as NLP, metaphysical things, energy medicine, quantum.
Right.
So it just took me on this journey that I never expected.
That's great. I was hypnotized once in a group,
Yep.
and I was on a relaxed high afterwards for days. I could
Oh.
feel the impact of what the exercise we went through. It was a group.
Yep.
It was part of maybe, I don't know, 20 or 30 people. We were in a group, and this guy came up, and next thing I know, he says, it's over, and I'm thinking, no, no. And I walked around for days with this, it was amazing.
Beautiful.
I always thought, they can't hypnotize me. I'm not going to let them
Yeah.
because of the duck thing.
Yeah. And you know what? Most people are nervous about that.
Yeah.
And I always, in the work that I do, I always say my client is in control.
Yeah.
Because if they don't want to have to answer me, they don't have to answer me. For people who don't understand the stage, right now we're in the brain frequency of beta, which is a very fast frequency. What you have in hypnosis is the alpha state, which is the daydream state. So if anyone's ever meditated, they've daydreamed, if you've ever driven and passed an exit or don't remember how you got there.
Just did that the other day.
Yeah, so that's the state
Yeah.
of hypnosis. So people always think that they're going to be controlled, but I always say, this is, you're in control. Yeah, of the entire process.
Well, as long as we've been talking about this, we should talk about the book.
Yeah.
Because maybe you could explain to us the overall theme or theory of the book.
Sure.
Because it's a very catchy title. You think, what?
Yeah. So when I talk about our beliefs, if you think about the time when we're little children, where do our beliefs come from when we're born? So we're inheriting a religion because whatever our parents decide, for a lot of people, that's how we are, and I say program, but we are taught to believe. Where we live, if we live in the city, if we live in the countryside, that also determines if we think we're smart, if you're an athlete, if you're attractive, if you don't believe you're attractive. All of these things have something to do with our own belief systems. If we've been traumatized, if we had something happen to us as children, any kind of trauma. Another thing that people don't take into account is inherited ancestral trauma. So if you had a grandparent or a great-grandparent that experienced something very traumatic and they never healed it, that can get passed down generationally. And that's stored in our DNA. Some of the work that I do is actually going into the person's subconscious mind and accessing those belief systems. There's a fellow who wrote a book, It Didn't Start With You, and in it he talks about a woman who had been depressed from the time she was born, always depressed. And she made a comment that she said, I want to incinerate myself. Whoa. And he said, incinerate? That's not a word that people use. And he asked, did you have a relative in the Holocaust? And she said, yes.
Get out.
So she came in carrying her grandmother's
Sure.
terror and grief dealing with the Holocaust.
That's...
Right? So if you
That'll
see
make
patterns,
you stop and think.
Yeah. If you see patterns in the family of certain belief systems or certain things that are going on, that can often mean that there's some inherited ancestral beliefs.
Yeah. Well, and I think if you look back, and you've mentioned this in your book, that we're programmed. Mm-hmm. We hear from our parents, our teachers, our friends, and your list goes on and on and on. The culture, religion. I mean, there's all this stuff bombarding us when we're kids, and how do you sort it out, and what do you make of it all as a kid?
It's hard.
It's
hard
yeah.
Because we grow up as children, we want to please.
Yep.
So when we have something that we're passionate, like I wanted to be an artist. And I went to Rhode Island School of Design as a summer program in high school. They told me that I was in, basically when I was 15 years old.
Great.
But my parents were afraid that I would end up a poor, starving artist. And they decided that they wanted me to go to school for business. And I didn't have much of a voice back then, so that's what I did. And so I took on their beliefs that this is what I had to do until it didn't work for me anymore.
Right.
Because we'll suddenly get depressed, or we'll realize that we're living vicariously through other people. And we tend to do that. We'll do that with our own children because we think that that's the thing we're supposed to do
Right.
to keep us safe.
Yeah, there's an order to things.
There's an order, right?
I always think that if somebody, and it's fine, if somebody gets pregnant before they get married, and you always hear that there's an order, this is my parents, there's an order to things. You're supposed to follow this path.
Right, but who made that rule?
No, not me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So these things, it goes back to like the Hatfields and the McCoys. They were battling it out for generations, and then finally someone asked, why are we fighting? And they're like, because our parents did and our grandparents did. People don't even know why they're doing the things or they say the things they do. It's just become part of them.
So you, in the book you gave, and I wrote some down here, that you gave an example of some of the lies that we either know or tell each other, or something. That one is that you're not smart, and you mentioned that already. And that was, what are you, stupid? That's my that's my saying growing up. A lie that you can solve your problems using the same thinking you had. Oh, just I can handle this, right?
Yeah, I can handle this.
I don't need your help. The other one, well, there's a lot more. And you referenced Christiana Northrup, and she's the one who.
Yeah, well, she endorsed my book. I was actually on an interview with her.
Oh, nice.
And she loved what I had to say so much about the book that I had asked her to endorse the book.
Oh,
so
great.
Dr. Northrup, and she's written the foreword to my new book.
And you are now an international bestseller with this book. Given the title, what's the word? What do you hope to accomplish if I read the book, which I have? What do you hope I would accomplish after reading the book? What would I learn, and what revelations would come to mind?
One of my greatest goals was, after having gone through that deep depression and not wanting to be here, was I had to search out so many different people who did so many different things to help me uncover what I needed to uncover. And I decided that I wanted to be the person that I was looking for 25 years ago, like a one-stop shop, someone who could get to the belief systems, the internal belief systems, and someone who could do the hypnosis, someone who could help them with the energy medicine and the quantum healing, the body-mind connect, so that I could help them better understand their process and what they were going through. So the book goes through some of my own personal stories, but it also gives people tools and techniques that they can use that are really simple and easy. Things like there's one that the Ho'oponopono, which is,
talk about that.
and we're going to talk about that about the movie too, which is forgiveness. And the importance of forgiveness and how that creates miracles in your life. And then there's an emotional release method that I use that's really simple. You focus on, let's say someone is afraid of flying. Where is it in your body you feel it? You identify where you feel it, or if it's a thought, and then you release it. And once you release it, you keep the wisdom, but the emotion behind it is gone. And they're very simple mantras and things that people can use, these really beautiful tools. It doesn't have to be that complicated.
Could you, it's hard to release something, isn't it? I mean, it's hard for me to get something out of my mind if it's stuck in there.
It can be. It all depends on how badly you want to release it.
Oh,
right?
That's interesting.
Because people are attached to their stuff. For instance, I had some abuse when I was younger, and I was reading a book saying that we needed to take responsibility for what happened in our lives. And I got very angry because I had wanted to be this victim. And the longer I stayed a victim, the more I could give my power away and not have to take responsibility for my life. So when I finally decided to take responsibility for it and just say, yeah, I didn't ask for it to happen, but I owned that it happened. I owned the healing, and I decided that I'm no longer going to be the victim, and I let it go. So I got to keep the wisdom, which allows me to do the healing work that I do, but I don't carry the emotion, because when we carry the emotion, it's like our 6-year-old that's having a temper tantrum, or our younger versions of us that are very sad and they're frustrated, and then they project it onto other people instead of allowing themselves to just release it and then let it go.
Interesting. What are the what's the age of the people that you work with generally? 'Cause I'm thinking of teenagers and the depression, that there's so many young kids that are just mad and sad.
Right. It depends on the maturity. I've had some very mature 14 and 15-year-olds, but generally I like when kids have had some life experience and are ready to take responsibility.
Yeah.
I've worked with people with all different, now I always have to preface this, I'm not a licensed mental health practitioner or a licensed medical practitioner. So the work that I do, I have to be very careful about what I talk about, how I help people, even though it runs the gamut.
Yeah.
But in a sense, I have to be very careful about how I talk about the things that I do. But there's been some really miraculous things that have happened with people.
My questions are going all over the place. What does a session look like with you?
Right.
What would somebody? I'm thinking of what it might look like, but maybe I would go in with the wrong expectations and be surprised or whatever.
Every session is different because everyone's life experience is different.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I usually take about 30 minutes to talk to someone to really get to understand where they're coming from and what their issue is. Then oftentimes we'll do some hypnosis where I'll ask their higher self. Now, we can do something called timeline, where I take someone back through their life to all the incidents that have happened to them, release them, let them go, and then what happens is it shifts the way they see the world. So let's say someone had a betrayal. Let's say their father left, walked out on the family. And so they have some betrayal and trust issues. So now they see the world through that idea that they can't trust. So every person that comes into their world, and this can also happen from the standpoint of, you can create that by attracting it with the law of attraction. You now are attracting people who you can't trust. You attract situations through that. It's this pair of glasses.
Yeah.
When you come to a place where you release and heal that trauma, that original wounding, then you don't see the world through that perspective. I've had people say to me, wow, the sky looks bluer, the grass is greener, everything feels more vivid, and I'm not being triggered by people and circumstances as much. So depending upon, so there's timeline where we'll go back, then, or there's parts work. So sometimes we have these younger versions of ourselves, and there's a 6-year-old that was very wounded, and we need to talk to that part and help that part heal and help it grow up and understand. There's something else that I do that is really interesting. The Native Americans call this soul retrieval. And it's when we've experienced some kind of trauma, a piece of ourselves leaves. So then we go into that state where they talk about someone being in shock, right? That's when that piece leaves. So imagine a 1,000-piece puzzle and 100 pieces missing. So you're not fully integrated. So what I do is we go into a hypnotic state and retrieve any lost part or parts and reintegrate them.
Would I remember, I'm listening to it as I was the patient. Do I remember while being hypnotized, do I remember after we come out? I remember
Yes, you would
because I did
remember.
remember that the hypnosis group that I was in, but that was not anything deeper.
Right.
It was just,
For the most part, people remember.
Do they?
And then what I ask, if it was a particularly traumatic experience for them, that we hover over it and look at it from a neutral perspective. We don't need to re-traumatize
Right.
people. Or we just release the feeling of it without revisiting the actual event.
That's great. Now you must have. How did you find out you were an international bestseller? And have there been recognition, and you've been speaking about the book around, or?
Yeah. So what happened was, well, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I was part of what we call a Ho'oponopono group, which is an ancient Hawaiian prayer, forgiveness prayer. I had been trying to write this book for 15 years, and I had so many blocks, and I realized that I still had a lot of resentment and anger that had to be released. I started doing this prayer, and my life started shifting and changing. But before that, I had read Dr. Joe Vitale's book called Zero Limits.
Right.
What happened with that is Dr. Vitale read an article in the newspaper about this Dr. Hugh Lin, who was a therapist for a prison system in Hawaii, and they had a section of the prison that was for the criminally insane. And that section was so out of control that they couldn't keep therapists, they couldn't keep guards. It was a really big problem. And in order to have federal funding, they had to have a therapist. So they were searching, and they found Dr. Hugh Lin, and Dr. Hugh Lin said, I just want you to know that I don't see my patients in person. I just pray over their files. Well, they thought they were crazy, and they didn't hire him. But 3 months later, they still had no one.
Yep.
So they ended up hiring him out of desperation. And that section of the prison started to slowly clear out. They started to reintroduce them back to the regular prison system or to a mental health while he was praying over them.
Ooh, that's a stretch for me, Lisa.
It's a stretch for a lot of people. But I will tell you and this is where quantum comes in.
Yeah.
Because everything and everyone is a reflection of your own feelings, right? And what you've experienced. So when you're actually forgiving yourself, it changes the way you see the world. And that's how it works. So when you're doing this prayer, it's I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And people will say to me, well, wait a minute, they hurt me. Why am I forgiving them? Why is that my responsibility? And what I say is, when people have resentment, it's like swallowing a poison pill expecting the other person to die.
Right.
When you get your place to neutrality and you come from a place of compassion, because everyone does the best they can with what they have.
Right.
Even those who hurt other people, because hurt people hurt people.
Exactly.
And they think they're doing the right thing.
Because that's what they learned.
That's what they learned. When you let go of it and forgive, you will often feel those people shift and change. Now, I had someone who I hadn't spoken to in 14 years. And the only thing that I had done was this prayer. And so I was doing this every night and every morning because I wanted to clear. I didn't necessarily want a relationship with them. I just wanted to be done with them. And it was, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And 3 months later, I was driving in my car and the phone rang. Hi, it's so-and-so. I noticed things between us have changed. I want you back in my life. How can we make this happen?
Oh, that's
I almost
great.
drove off the road.
Wow.
It was really insane. And after that, the title, In Every Belief is a Lie, came. And I sat down and I couldn't stop writing. And I wrote for 5 months straight. And then what happened was I self-published. So I went through Amazon. And in Amazon, it became a best-selling book. And I also decided this past winter, 2 years later, that I wanted to record my book for the audio book. And someone said, well, wouldn't it be cool if you became an international bestseller? And this gets into the whole thing about mindset and manifesting. So I had a friend in Canada, and she's like, well, Canada's international.
Right. Exactly.
So if we get a bunch of people in Canada to buy your book,
it's international.
It's international. And so we had a lot of fun with that. And here's the interesting part. She had a bunch of people that she wanted to help me to buy the book. And she went on my Amazon page to check to see what my status was in Canada. it had already reached #1
Wow.
before we had people buy it.
Oh, my word. That's fabulous.
It had
Lisa.
already achieved the #1 in the category. So these are the miracles when we talk about the Ho'oponopono, and when we get into the movie, a lot of it is about expecting miracles. Because once you clear out your resentment, your anger, and all of these belief systems that are infringing and they're in your way, it leaves you to really do anything you want. And an example of that is I've always loved traveling. Traveling has been a passion of mine, but I hadn't traveled in the past couple years. And I fell skiing, fractured 2 bones in my knee. And I realized that I didn't want to go through another winter if I couldn't ski and be active. So a friend of mine, out of the blue, 9 months later, I had made a statement to myself, I don't want to spend another cold winter in Vermont. And I said that in March. In November, a friend of mine who I went to high school with contacted me and said, gee, I don't know if you're interested, but I'm going to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. My friend has a timeshare. There's room for you. Would you like to come?
Wow.
I hadn't spoken to her in 5 years.
Oh.
And so I said yes. That's the other part of it. You have to learn to say yes to everything. And with discernment, I went, and I was speaking to a friend of mine who sold everything and travels around the world. And she does house sitting around the world. And she said, if I find house sits in Mexico, will you stay? So I said yes. She kept finding them one after another.
Wow.
So 1 week turned into 3 months.
Oh, fabulous.
And the only thing we ever paid for was a side vacation that we went for 4 days someplace. The rest of it was, everything was free.
That's
so
great.
we just paid for our food and our transportation.
That's amazing.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
But these are the things that can happen when you believe.
Yeah. And you're open to it.
And you're open.
Because I think what you said is very important about saying yes. I know a lot of people, well, how come you did so much? Because every time an opportunity came up, I figured, what the heck? And you say yes.
Exactly.
But if you're afraid to say yes, you stay where you are.
Right, because in my mind, and this was the wild part, and that helped me surrender, we never knew week to week where we were going to stay.
Wow.
But I trusted the process, and I knew we could always grab an Airbnb or a hotel if we had to.
Right.
But my friend had been doing this for 2 years. She kept applying for house sits, and then we would meet the most amazing people.
Oh, I bet.
And then they would invite us. We had someone who invited us to their second home right on the ocean and invited us to stay with them for a month. We'd only known them 3 days.
Good Lord.
I know.
Wow.
And they
Good
were,
for you.
we knew the people who knew them, so it wasn't like we went off with just random strangers, so I knew people who knew them.
So when you're going, we're got to kind of switch topics here for a little while. But I think when you're reading the book, and are you able to help yourself, or do you give, like, make sure that you can say yes, be open? Are there things that I can do myself to get to that state you're talking about?
Yes.
Or do you need help to get there?
Everyone is unique and individual, right? I always say, you know, I do this for a living, but there are times when these techniques aren't enough for me that I need to go get help from someone else, right? Because there's things that we don't see in ourselves.
Right.
But I give people tools to get through the basics, like with the forgiveness, the Ho'oponopono, that's a very simple technique, and explain it in more detail. The emotional release method, there's self-hypnosis. There's a bunch of different things that people can do. I talk about discovering your why you're here. I've been a why coach for about 4 or 5 years now, and that's been a lot of fun. That's where your passion comes from. And
expand on that a little bit.
yeah, so for
That's
those
cool.
people who have seen Simon Sinek speak, Simon Sinek did a TED Talk about, it's called Start With Why. And he explains how important it is for people to understand what their why is. So a fellow named Gary Sanchez saw him speak and said, "Oh my gosh, I need you to help me figure out my why." And at the time, Simon said to him, "I don't help people find their why. I tell them why their why is important."
And we're talking WHY?
Yes.
Why? Okay.
And so Gary Sanchez went on for 10 years and interviewed thousands of people and discovered that there's 9 whys. And this was what was also a huge shift for me, because coming from a place where I was always different, I discovered that my why is challenge. I challenge conventional thinking and think outside the box. I don't learn like everyone else. So when I understood that I was challenged, it helped me better own who I am. Right. And I wasn't broken. I just learned differently. Right. And with that, that allowed me, and I'm also a visionary. There's another why called Better Way. And these are also visionaries. That's my how, is Better Way. And Better Way people are always looking for a better way. They're inventors. They're entrepreneurs. And so are challenge people. They're always looking outside the box. Then my what is make sense. So we have a why, a how, and a what. So I make sense out of complicated situations and problems. So my why is I'm an out-of-the-box problem solver.
There you go.
There you go. And I was like, that made it so simple, and it helps people with their branding as well and their websites.
Well, it makes you feel you've been, I won't say the word vindicated, but just somebody's recognized that you're different and it's okay.
Yes.
That's the part, I guess. It's okay.
It's exactly, and you can see challenge people because they're the ones who often have purple hair, which I used to have purple hair. They'll dress a little uniquely, or they often will want to challenge, what the status quo is, and they'll ask a lot of questions and push people's buttons.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, listen, we've used up our first 30 minutes, and I want to make sure you know that the book is called In Every Belief is a Lie, and it's fabulous. It's on Amazon. It's in
and
stores.
I did the audio book this winter.
Right.
I recorded it before I left for Mexico, and then it was delayed because Audible requires you to say the end, and I didn't do it, so I had to wait.
Stop.
I had to wait till I got back from Mexico and go back to the recording studio and record
say the end?
The end, and then they could put it up. And then while we were in there were like a few things that we were able to just sharpen it up while we were in there. I know.
Whoa.
The end.
And so how many months did you waste without
3
saying
months.
I'm sorry.
No, it was fine, but it's up.
Amazon.
So it's on Audible. It's on a number of different streaming.
Great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Audibles, I love the Audible books. I really do. And I think there are certain times when you lay in bed or you're not feeling well and you listen to a book and it just sinks right in. It's walk. That's great. All right, so now we're going to switch gears and talk, well, not so much switching, but Zero Limit, which is also an award-winning video. Yeah. So you're on a roll.
The movie, it was so interesting because I was part of that Ho'oponopono group.
Okay, we have to stop and talk about, because it's even spelled interestingly. It goes on forever.
And then apostrophe O-P-O-N-O-P-O-N-O.
It's a lot of P's and N's in there or something.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you.
That's what that means? Oh, I
know. No, is to make right. Ho'oponopono is about to make right. And the prayer is, I love you, I'm sorry. And what I do is when I first started, I had index cards with the name of each person who I had anger and resentment. And my stack was pretty thick. And I had it on my nightstand at night, and then I would one by one go through the card and I would say their prayer until I felt pretty neutral about them, and then go on to the next one until I was no longer triggered by them, and then I would tear up the card. And that was when I got the phone call.
To be on
that person when I was driving. I noticed that things had changed between us.
Interesting.
Because nothing had changed but that prayer. So when I was able to do that, I let go of all my anger and resentment. I was no longer in victim, and then I could write the book from a healed person's perspective.
It's really exciting to, because I think some of us might struggle to jump in and believe, but you want to believe.
Yeah.
Because how great is that this would work?
And I always say you don't have to believe in it for it to work, although it helps, but the other person doesn't even have to know that you've forgiven them. They don't have to have forgiven you, right? It's just for your own personal peace. And people will say, well, why do I have to forgive them? They hurt me. I want them to forgive me first. And I'm like, for peace, for your own peace.
Right, that part I see for sure.
It's really powerful.
Yeah.
But it goes much deeper than that. Because when you forgive someone, you're letting go and allowing yourself to just be free. There's a freedom that comes with it. And that is worth everything.
I think if I'm thinking about me doing that, it would feel more confident.
Yeah.
That there wouldn't be any surprises, that you know what you're doing, and there you go.
You're just the letting go process was so amazing, and I felt lighter. And I will tell you that when you do it, your life will change. You see things from a different perspective. And again, it didn't matter that the other people knew whether or not I forgave them. And in some cases, they actually changed. They became nicer. But that doesn't mean that you have to have them as your best friend.
Now, is this movie similar? Is this what the movie is about?
So the movie was about people who believed in zero limits. So what happened is, and it's hard because they are only giving each person a minimum of 3 minutes. I had 3 minutes in the movie. There are other people who had much more time in it. But what happens is, you've got this whole, where all of them had come through great adversity. And you don't get a lot of their story, you get some of their story. But you hear about, there was one woman who was in an accident and she was completely crushed, her bones were crushed. They told her she'd never walk again. You would never know, right? Everyone has their own unique story, and they're all coming from a place where they believe they can achieve anything. Dr. Vitale, he's in his 70s, and he wants to get his black belt in mixed martial arts.
Good for him.
He didn't know how to play an instrument. He just decided, I want to learn to play an instrument. And so he did. And he also, for the people who come, he gave me a little gift to give to everyone. So everyone who comes to the movie will get their
So we should talk about that, because it's on the 18th, correct?
It's this Friday, the 18th.
Right.
And there's 2 showings. There's a 5 o'clock and a 7 o'clock. There's a pre-show at Lawson's Finest with a band, Shrimp Tunes, and that's from 2:30 to 6:30.
Right.
And that's open to the public. It doesn't cost anything to go. So you can go, and we're doing a little celebration. And then at 5:30, the first movie starts, and we're having a red carpet premiere.
Nice.
And my friend Jennifer Harrison is going to be interviewing people on the red carpet.
Oh, great.
And Barry Fisher is going to be taking photos.
Do you know what I like about Barry? And she's an incredible photographer, a lot with animals.
Yes.
But her place of business, there's something about, I would go move in there and just stay there. It's the most comfortable place to sit and just be. It's great.
A lot of people do hang out there.
I
And
can
she
see it.
has a show. Actually, I'm so glad you mentioned this. Her photographs during COVID, she went out and did something called the Awakening Love Project. And she took photos of people who are walking with their dogs, and she put them up so they're actually at the big picture.
Oh, really?
And
nice.
she did some photos of seniors because they couldn't go to their graduation, they couldn't go to prom. So there's a whole little scene. The kids, the teenagers who graduated in 2020. She has a bunch of their photos up there too.
That's great. She did something with my puppy, but it was just Greta talent. But that studio. That's how I want my house to look.
Yeah, Barry Fisher photo in Waitsfield.
There's something about it. You just want to snuggle in the couch and leave me alone. But anyway, so I'm glad to see her. So, and how did you know the producer of the show? Just from word of mouth around?
It was word of mouth. There were people who had studied with Dr. Vitale, and he knew that they had been doing this work. I was in a group that met weekly. And one of his producers got wind of our group because we were having miracles happen constantly. Even to a point where one of the women who loves chocolate was her neighbors were leaving chocolate at her door, like chocolate chip cookies
Just
and Easter bunny.
wow.
Without asking.
Oh.
Like it is like magic. And one of the taglines as part of the movie is expect miracles, because I really have learned to expect miracles, because I think of things and they happen now.
Great.
And that's why you have to be careful, because if you're negative and you think about negative things, you're going to manifest that. But even to a point when I was in Mexico and I had to use the restroom and I was in a parking garage, and I should know better because I wouldn't use one of those in the United States either. But I walked in and 3 out of the 4 stalls were really dirty. And I walked into the one and it was clean, but there was no toilet paper. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I got to get out of here. And I opened the door and there was a woman standing there with a roll of toilet paper in her hand and said, I thought you might need this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's been like that. And the more you release, the more you forgive, the more you really become who you are meant to be. Because those old belief systems block us. And how many times when people go to pursue their dreams, everyone tries to talk them out of it.
Yeah. Right.
Because they're projecting their own insecurities onto the other person. And they're like, wait a minute, if they pursue their own ideal, then I have to take responsibility for the fact that I haven't done it. And people do that all unconsciously. Yeah. But the movie is so inspirational because you get story after story after story of people who have released, let go, and achieved really amazing things. Yeah. And they're not all famous people, but they followed their dreams and believed that it was achievable.
And your section and Barry's are filmed right here in Mad River, correct?
Yes.
With our mountains and hills and dales.
So I live in a log home.
Yeah.
And so part of it was filmed there and on my property. And then up on Bragg Hill in the Mad River Valley.
Great.
They filmed me walking, and you had the Bragg Farm where they make the most amazing butter. And the 3 mountains, the Sugar Bush North and South, and then Mad River Glen.
Great. Well, I used to live here, and I used to think, I hope everybody wakes up every morning and says, wow, how lucky we are, because every place you look could be a calendar page. You know, I mean, it's just stunning. I
say that because it was a second home for me 25 years ago. And then it was always my dream to move here full time.
Oh, nice.
And when I did, I said, I don't know anyone here. Are they going to accept me? Am I going to meet people? It's the warmest, most wonderful community. Yeah. And I fell in love with the community. And not only that, every day, even though I see that same view, it's never the same because the lighting is different, the plant life is different, the colors, the shades, whatever. And I pinch myself. And I talk to people who've lived here a long time, and they say, when I see the valley through your eyes, it brings in a whole new perspective because I see it from a place of wonder and gratitude and beauty.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is. It's just amazing here. I love it. When I first worked here, I used to go over to Route 7, where Champlain Valley, and they always had, I called them God's rays, but the sun would come down, and I would ride over there on purpose just to see that, and I go, okay, I know I'm in the right place, and I go back home and to Bristol, and I was happy for the day because you just kind of centered yourself and you went back. So this movie, is there anything that another individual said on that movie that really impacted you? This may be hard to answer, but because you're hearing from all of these people, I'm assuming, that are telling you amazing stories. Yeah,
it's interesting because I had the opportunity to see it on my computer when they showed me the movie. They sent us to see what we thought before. And I was like, okay, that's a really cool movie. And then I saw it on the big screen. Oh. And the emotion and the impact of seeing it on a big screen really takes it to a whole nother level. And there are so many different unique people. most of it is where they talk about the Ho'oponopono and how it changed their lives, and how, there's how Dr. Joe Vitale really pursued it. He was homeless at one point. He was living in his car.
Whoa.
And somehow he got from that to going to Hawaii to meet Dr. Hugh Lin, to then writing 90 books and getting into the movie The Secret. So if people have never seen The Secret, it's all about the law of attraction. And that movie catapulted him. And he talks about, I really want to make a difference. I want to make a difference in people's lives and be able to understand that they can accomplish whatever their dreams are and what they want. There isn't you're too old. And I recently, over the weekend, watched a movie about a baseball player who, it's an older movie, but it's a baseball player who goes on to give up his dream of becoming a professional ball player, even though he's amazing. He's a coach. And then he gets talked into trying out for the minor leagues, and then he makes it into the major leagues for 2 years. And he already was married with children. He was in his 30s, mid-late 30s. And so there is no limit.
Yeah, really. Yeah, that's great. But I think at 82, what do you think?
You know what? I see people, and all the people who I met down in Mexico were all in their 70s and 80s.
Really?
And I laugh because I'm a little younger than that, and they would take us out to dinner, and I'd hear them say, "We're taking the kids out to dinner tonight."
Exactly.
I said, "Oh my God, I haven't been called kids." I'm in my 60s. But, and they talk about they were all retired, like the idea of working was so foreign to them. Right. And I thought to myself, I don't think I work a day in my life.
Yeah, well, me neither.
And I know that about you, because you're passionate about, and you're passionate about
Somebody
the
asked me,
state.
what's my hobby? I said, working.
Yeah.
That's what I like to do.
Exactly. You're passionate about it. You care about the people of Vermont and what goes on here.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of work. People don't realize how much goes on behind the scenes, but there's a lot of passion. Yeah.
He'll tell you. He'll tell you. I just not a TV. I keep my TV on, but just for something in the background.
Right.
But I never watch it.
Right.
So much. But anyway, so there's 2 showings. I had them wrong, 5 and 7.
5 and 7.
And you have to get tickets,
Yes.
which are on, how do they get that?
So through my website, it's www.lisamindset.com. And then as soon as you get on, it'll take you through the instructions, because there's also VIP. So we have reserved seats for people, and that also includes quantum healing. So what I'm going to be doing is having people, we're doing it as a Zoom and having everyone on, and I do groups as well. So when I do these healings, they're pretty amazing. Some people have relief right away, other people it's a process. But I had an amazing experience with someone who had collapsed on the floor for 11 hours. They were too weak to move. They had symptoms of MS. And he had asked for healing, so we checked his blood beforehand, and his blood looked terrible. And then we did the healing, and then a week later we checked his blood through something called dark field microscopy, live blood testing. He told me, while I did the healing, I had this visual of water, clear water running through his body, but it was stuck in his abdomen. There was a blockage there. This is in my mind's eye what I see.
Right.
And now Jesus showed up in the healing. This is not a religious thing. Yeah. He just shows up. I have all kinds of guides. He was helping me push this water through, and then the blockage disintegrated, and I could just see this water flowing through him. I never said anything to him about that. What was interesting is when we got together a week later, he said, something strange happened. 2 days after the healing, I woke up nauseous and threw up enormous amounts of clear water. I didn't have any water before I went to bed.
Wow.
I didn't have any water in the middle of the night. I have no idea where this came from, because I've never had that much water. But he goes, I could not stop throwing up.
Well, you had mentioned Jesus, and I was thinking, how does religion fit into this if somebody is religious? Is there any conflict, or is there any? Does one clash with the other, or does it all get simpatico, as they might say?
I kind of leave it open to whatever people's beliefs are, and I never want to infringe on someone's.
Right.
Like, I was raised Jewish, right? And Jesus comes into the healings. What do I say about that? I had to be open to it.
Right.
So I just say be open. Some people say the universe, some people say God, some people say Buddha, whoever it is for them. I believe that if you believe in something greater than ourselves, that can help you through. And it's also our higher self, because our higher self has the answer. When we keep looking outside ourselves for people to save us, that's when we get into trouble. Because we already know, we already have the answer. So when we go inward, and when you meditate and you ask yourself, you can go into a relaxed state and you ask yourself if you should do something. And then sometimes, like for me, I'll get like goosebumps all over. I'll call them God bumps, that rush, like, this is amazing. That's what I want to do. Versus if I close my eyes and I think about something that's not as pleasant, and then I get a sensation in my throat. Like, oh, I can't swallow. Those are my yeses and my nos. Right?
Right.
So, and then there's a neutral too, which I've learned to recognize in my own body. So I've tried to do as much of that to come up with my own answers instead of asking other people. Or I'll always look for a confirmation. That's always nice. But deep down, because if I had listened to everyone else, I would never have become a healer and done the work I did, because no one understood it at the time.
Right.
And 25 years ago, to talk about Reiki or energy medicine or
Reiki.
hypnosis, I actually got through customs to Canada by saying I was a hypnotist, and I got out of jury duty.
Really? Because you said you were a hypnotist?
It wasn't so much the hypnosis, but they were interviewing me. It was the first jury duty in person after COVID. And they asked me what I did. And I said, well, I'm a hypnotist and I'm an empath, which means I feel what other people feel. And he's like, can you shut that off? And I said, no.
Bye. Interesting.
So I got on a short list pretty quickly, and then he asked me some more personal questions, and then he had me go. But it was all pretty much related to what I do.
I got called to jury duty and I walked in 9 months pregnant. They said I could go home. I don't know why.
Wow.
I went, I don't think you want me.
Yeah.
He goes, you're right, goodbye. I've never served. I'd love to serve.
It would be interesting, but and even going over the border to Canada, I got called in on a random check.
Oh, really?
And then he asked me what I did for a living, and I said I'm a hypnotist, and he's like, "Are you hypnotizing me right now?" And then my answer was, "I could be." He said, "You can go."
Really go.
I have fun with it.
Yeah, I bet. Well, people don't understand it.
No, they don't.
I don't. So.
They don't. And, I always say, if you can do a guided meditation, that's really all it is.
Yeah, that's great. And how did you learn to be a hypnotist? Who teaches hypnotists to hypnotize?
Yeah, so
I
was part of something called the National Guild of Hypnotists, and it's located in New Hampshire.
Oh.
And it's an international organization. They train people, and they have a conference annually, and you go and you take your classes. So some people want more medical hypnosis because they can use it for anesthesia. There are people who use it for... I haven't done that yet. I have a friend who hypnotized herself and then went and had her tooth drilled.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
And she can wake herself up from it?
Yeah. She is. I'm like, I'm not that good.
I can't imagine
when it comes
that
to that. My work, I decided I wanted to do more metaphysical and work in that area. And oh my gosh, it's been so much fun. I've learned so much.
That's great. I should do it because I always worry. Look at the clock. If as you get older and perhaps a little goofy, you say things that are deep down inside, and I'm thinking, I wonder what I'm going to spill my beans, all the things you've crushed down inside of you to keep it there. So,
yeah, I had a woman who was over 100 come to me one time.
Really?
And it was really cool. And she actually wanted to we did a past life regression with her too. And that's a whole nother, because if you believe that time is not linear, everything is going on all simultaneously, which is hard to get your brain wrapped around it. But yeah, I've done past life work,
Nice.
life between lives.
Is biofeedback part of this kind of science or whatever?
I'm not trained in that, but I have done it with people who have done it, and it's all about retraining your thoughts.
Because I did it one time too, and it was very accurate.
It is very accurate.
I was very surprised.
Yeah.
Because I went in half like, okay, because I knew the woman, and she said, "Would you mind doing it?" I said, "Okay." And then it was just right on the money, and I went, "Whoa."
Yeah. No, they can be very accurate.
Yeah.
I've
you
done
mentioned
them.
Reiki. Why Reiki? Is that because it's mostly your mind that's making the changes? I think because they don't touch you, they just on Reiki they just kind of.
Well, they're channeling an energy.
Yeah, and you feel it.
And then you feel it, and then the energy goes to the other person wherever it needs to go.
Yeah.
And so that's part of it. I'm trained. I'm a Reiki master.
Yeah.
What I've learned with energy medicine is I've learned to really more manipulate the energy to where I feel it needs to go, but they're both powerful. I had a really profound experience when I had moved from Massachusetts to New Hampshire. I was living in Concord, New Hampshire, and I didn't have any clients yet because I was brand new, so I volunteered at the hospital. There was a woman who was hooked up to a heart monitor, and she had had 2 unsuccessful heart surgeries to regulate her heartbeat and all kinds of medication that wasn't working. So when I work with people, I'm also checking their chakras, which are energy centers. We have many of them, but most people think about their 7 major. And one of them is the heart. When I was working on her in the hospital, I got to her heart chakra and I didn't feel one. And so energetically, I built her a new one. And while she was hooked up to the monitor, the nurse came barreling in and said, "What just happened here?" So I'm just doing some Reiki. And she said, I said, "Why, is everything okay?" And she said, "Her heartbeat just regulated."
Wow.
So each chakra energy center is related to the organs in that area. Lungs often relate to grief. That's where we store our grief, and heartache. And so we can damage when we've gone through a lot. When we feel like we've been kicked in the gut, that's our 3rd chakra. That's our self-esteem. Someone says something that really hurts. Then we also have our, 3rd eye chakra, the 6th chakra, which is our intuition. Everyone has all of these. It's just a matter of degree of how much you want to develop them.
Interesting. Because it really, Reiki worked on me.
Yeah.
They were doing it free up at the hospital.
Yeah.
So I went up, and I knew the woman who was doing it, and your mind just takes over and does what it's supposed to do, I guess.
Exactly.
It was amazing.
It is amazing, and it can be done in person and at a distance.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the work that I do now, for local Vermonters, I still have an office in Waitsfield, but I, for the most part, do probably about 90% of my clients are online, all on Zoom.
Really?
Yeah. It's all done.
Do you feel that? Do you feel? We're running out of time. Do you feel that close to them? That like this would you would feel you and me. You feel the closeness, but on Zoom, it's not.
I feel it's just as intimate,
Really?
and people, as long as they're relaxed.
Interesting.
It depends on the individual. It's really.
Well, I'm so used to it now. I probably would be fine with me, but. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Lisa, I have loved this. It's been one of the best hours ever. Go see the movie Zero Limits. It's this Friday. You have to buy tickets.
Yes.
So get on
LisaMindset.com.
LisaMindset.com and come join us. And of course, before at the brewery. That's cool.
Yes,
too.
at Lawson's.
At Lawson's. Great stuff. My husband loves the sunshine.
Sip of sunshine.
That's what we have in our house. And also, get her book, With Every Belief is a Lie. Thank you very much. This is Pat McDonald, your host for Vote for Vermont.